Okay, let's all be honest. Has anybody felt any stress with having to make a sales call? Right? It's stressful, right? Why? You want to do a good job, right? You want to do a good job. You want to, what's the thing I want to say the right thing. I'm going to remove that from your life. You will not have stress going into a sales call anymore because you're not going to say the right thing. You're going to ask the right thing. And all you're going to do before you make your call, this is all you're going to do. You're going to do a little research on who you're talking to. And you're going to, as Michaela said, you're going to write down 3 good questions. That's all you're going to do. You're going to write down 3 good questions. You're going to have them on a piece of paper. You may or may not ever use those 3 questions. You'll probably use the first one, right? But you're just going to write down 3 great questions. And you're going to write them down kind of in the form we said is, I know this, but I'm curious about that. And what you're going to find is that the stress just starts to come off because guess what? It's not on you now. It's on them. It's on them to answer these questions that you've got. How hard is that? That's not your problem. Now they just have to answer the question. Your job is to now listen, clarify the question, and start to figure out, where can I add some value? Where is this thing that I have? What could it do for them? And I love this. There's a book I read one time that I love. They gave an example where a company who made milkshakes decided to do a research project where they would ask people, what is this milkshake doing for you? What do you want it to do for you? People are like, what do you mean? What do I want a milkshake to do for me? It's like, well, you're buying the milkshake, right? Yeah. Well, what do you want it to do? Are you celebrating? Are you just missing out on a meal and trying to replace? Like, well, yeah, well, no, I got an A in class. And so I want the milkshake to celebrate the fact that I got an A. Or I had a really bad day and nothing's going my way. And I want the milkshake to make me feel better, right? But when you started to identify what that was doing for them, it changes the way that you present the product, right? All of a sudden, their ad campaigns say, did you have a tough day? We've got the milkshake for you. Did you win did you get the good grade? We have the milkshake for you, right? And it started to identify with that. So think about those 3 questions ahead of time, have them down, and watch how it takes away the stress. And I'll mention to the faculty too, when you have situations that are very stressful, where you're going to have a conversation with somebody that's going to be unpleasant, and this happens to all of us in business, that's the first thing I do is I sit down and I write down, what are the 3 things I'm going to ask them? So let's say I've got a client that's very upset about the performance of something, right? I'll say, okay, let me think about what's the question. What about it is bothering you the most right now? Well, what do you mean what's bothering me? It's down 30%. Okay. Then I'm going to delve into, are you worried? What about that worries you the most? Is it, we'll go into, is it because they think they're going to need that money right now? Is it in the right time frame? Things like that. And I'll just start digging into, let's get into those questions of what is it that's bothering you? How would you like to see us rectify it? What would it be? Reminds me of another piece. It's very important when you ask a question that you don't give options of answers. And we all do this because we're typically uncomfortable with the silence after the question. Let me tell you why it's so important that we don't. So I'll give you an example of, what do you like about TCU? I wait 3 seconds. Is it the football team? Is it the professors? Is it being in Fort Worth? Yeah. Well, what happens is 2 things. One, you've said to somebody subconsciously, you're not able to answer this question. Let me give you some choices. Yeah, you're not that smart. Let me help you, right? So you've said that subconsciously. And then second, they're most likely going to pick your answers, one of them. And you've now taken away this great opportunity to hear an answer that you maybe never even thought of. So get comfortable with that silence right after and just let it sit there. And sometimes it's just people thinking. And that's okay. And another little tip in that is sometimes the best answer when someone asks you a question, especially if they ask you a question that you think could be a controversial question, Sometimes the best answer is, you know what, that's something I've thought some about, but I'm curious what you think. And that's a technique I want you to start getting used to, is being able to, in the right, not over and over again, but in the right space, it's interesting. I've been thinking about that too. So let's say, for example, I'll use this as an example. Somebody says, can you believe this whole thing about the masks and the fact that we're supposed to be wearing, or can you believe this whole thing about Texas and the masks? What do you think about it? Zach, what do you think about it, man? This whole thing. Well, think the person that just asked you that question has an answer in their mind, and you're way better off hearing their answer than trying to answer it. So the best answer is, you know what? I've been trying to keep up with it. It seems like it's changing every day, but I'm curious, what do you think about it? And you're much better off hearing their perspective, so you know who you're talking to. Because I think we've all at least seen one example where you've answered something and you realize, I am on the opposite side of what you think, and I just realized this. And that's an uncomfortable situation, especially if it's a sales call that you've clearly communicated, I'm on a different side of this than you are.